I've been ready.
Clap.
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 All right. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Collectible Conversations. This is episode number
17.
17.
17. I knew it.
17. We've been off by one for the past 4 episodes. But hey, we got a special guest today. I think you can see the fact, we got 3 screens here. We got 3 people. He's over there, actually, Squeaks. I don't know. You're pointing to the wrong way.
I think it's different for all of us.
Yeah, I think it's all based on.
I'm on the bottom for me.
Yes, you're on the bottom for me.
And this is Edison.
That's me.
This is Radar.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, this is going to be very disjointed. Your orientation is different from me. I'm on the bottom on my screen.
Dang.
But yeah, we have
welcome
a very special guest here. We have Edison, also known as Menace.
Also known as Collectibles.
How's everyone doing? I'm happy to be here. I kind of been pushing to be a guest on the show since this was teased a while back. It only took 17 episodes for you to work your way down the totem pole to take me. So
I think okay. Since day one, when Squeaks and I started about doing this, we're like, all right, we want to have guests at some point. And I think we asked you before we even did episode 1.
You guys didn't even have it wasn't even official yet. I think you had talked about doing something together. I was like, you do it together, have someone else as a side, because it's important to have someone to talk off of, to have that conversation. I said, and if you do that, I'm pretty free, I'm available. And then
well, it's great to have you today because Squeaks is just eating Sour Patch Kids and drinking water. So
I'll be the professional one, I suppose. I'm fine with that.
It adds Squeaks, character. How you doing? What are you talking about? You need me to get all sugared up so I can get the data rolling.
Should we talk about the 2-liter Dr. Pepper that's under your desk here?
He's hiding from the camera.
Okay, listen. Some things just stay off camera, okay?
Fair enough.
So what do we got today, Radar? What topics did you bring us? I see you're still in a hotel room.
Yes, I'm still in a hotel room. I may have lied. I'm leaving tomorrow morning now. I had to extend my trip. So I'm leaving tomorrow morning now from the date that this is posted. So be back in the cold tundra of Michigan, surviving through that.
It's like negative 20 right now.
Yeah. Maybe they'll just cancel my flight and I won't have to go. But we'll see.
Sure you can fly?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's still snowing.
Yeah, I mean, I know in Texas they shut everything down, but in Michigan they just keep going because it's
Texas
normal,
is rough right now, man. Those people don't even have heat.
No power, nothing.
Yeah,
because at least Michigan's Michigan knows. A lot of those states are aware of how to deal with snow, and they have infrastructure in place and plans.
Yeah,
it makes sense. Texas shuts down.
Well, and speaking of snow, I mean, the Midwest right now is absolutely getting crushed by this, which is leading to delays with Shining Fate's release this week. So normally my product would have shipped 2 days ago by the time people see this, and it has not shipped yet because the Midwest, I mean, FedEx and UPS aren't even running right now, and so because they can't, I mean, they're running what they can, but so the distributor hasn't even been able to ship stuff. So I think we're going to see delays there. And then we're also seeing GameStop delays, where GameStop is now telling people that their pre-orders could be delayed till June.
Does anybody yeah, that's not surprising to
me. Yeah, we experienced that with Champions Path.
Yeah.
Did you pre-order Champions Path, Edison, from GameStop?
Yeah. That's why when everyone was complaining about the Shining Fates, I was kind of I was shocked that people even thought they were going to get Shining Fates on the release. Because my Champions Path pre-order was first weekend of September, and I didn't even get my initial ETBs until January.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy I got this stuff, and I feel if you pre-ordered with them, you're still getting it. It's just you're going to wait. At this point, you're going to wait no matter what.
You're not going to get to enjoy it in the initial hype wave that everyone kind of expects, which right now it seems like nobody is, right? I think some stores are landing it. I've seen some Walmarts already are putting it out on the shelves, which is, standard. And then, but yeah, I think that we could see a lot of stores really it lagging. I think a lot of stores, people are expecting their pre-orders are going to ship Friday. And, of course, everyone's going to aim to do that. But the reality is the weather may prevent some of that. I have some overnight packages that I shipped out one is coming to me from Maine, and it's FedEx overnight, which I mean they're always on it, and it hasn't moved in like 2 days because like whichever hub facility it's in has just like it's stuck there.
Now, would you rather be stuck there or them try to make it through the storms?
Be stuck for sure. Like
Okay.
packages can be delivered later. Like I'm not like one of those people that's like risk your lives to deliver my Pokemon cards. Like that's not how I am. So it'll be okay. I think most people will be understanding, and if they're not, I mean, they can ask for a refund and somebody else will buy the product because I mean, what's your other option, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, so outside of Shining Fates, what else we got going on? We've got PWCC being listed tomorrow. I've been a part of some panels, Pokemon Clubhouse panels this past week or so. And what else was there?
I don't know.
I
This isn't
my sheet up.
That's it. That's all I got.
I think PWCC is the big one. So let's talk about Clubhouse real quick.
Okay.
I know me and you have talked about this, Squeaks. Have you heard of Clubhouse at all, Edison?
When I was here earlier, like I heard, like you guys discuss it in some form.
Okay.
I got the general. It feels like Discord, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly like Discord, but it's like somebody already created a server for you, so you don't have to use the Yukis of the world to help you out. So it's like streamlining that for people. But yeah, you got to be a part of our prep before we actually start when we're supposed to start. I don't know if that was research.
It was something. I don't know. Yeah, I can't
yeah,
think of the word.
Yeah, it's something for sure. That's what it is. No, but so essentially Clubhouse is a platform right now. It's only open to iOS users, where essentially you can go in, there's groups that are made, and then within those groups you can create rooms, and effectively you can host your own like panel where you can discuss on a topic and other people can come in to listen, ask questions, and interact. Right now, I have a few hangups with Clubhouse personally. One, it's iOS only, which I mean, this is a very common thing. I mean, we saw like Instagram when they launched, they did the same thing. It was iOS only for a while. Instagram, because they could really hone down to their target demographic user, right? iPhone users all have the same standardization of camera. The type of user that is buying iPhones are going to probably be more pushed towards like taking photos, that kind of thing. And I think we're seeing the same thing on Clubhouse, right? Since it is a voice interactivity app, iPhone provides standardization of microphones, right? Whereas across Android devices, you have a wide variety of microphone and microphone quality, which will result in probably some discrepancy in terms of people's user experience. And so they're probably trying to figure out how to do that within creating an app and everything like that. But I do think that hinders growth, right? I think pigeonholing yourself into like only one operating system where only a portion of, the user base, because Android far outpasses iOS in terms of users. And so that to me is like one detractor in the sense of wanting to go on there and dedicate time to growing on this platform. And, I get the concept of like first mover advantage, right? Going in and being one of the first on there, building up that base for if it blows up into something. But the thing is,
it's a social media platform.
What did you say?
The way you're saying like blow up on it. It's like a social media platform too, where you get followers and whatnot.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was really just like almost like a Skype thing that you just use it for calls.
Kind of. But you can get followers, you can put a profile up, you can link it to other profiles. I think it has direct integration to Twitter and Instagram right now for profiles and everything. So you do have that accessibility to effectively gain your following there and then integrate them into your other following elsewhere. And
but it's not really just like a voice. It's
correct.
Not just supposed to be
think like Discord meets Instagram meets Twitter, like all of them almost together. And so for me, maybe Instagram less with the images and more with just like the profile. But so for me, I think that's kind of my big hang up on it right now is it worth dedicating the already limited resource of time to trying to build a platform on this in the hopes that it becomes the next big thing versus just going somewhere else like TikTok that's already well established that I'm also probably not hitting home like I should.
Yeah, I mean, it's a high risk, high reward type thing. I mean, extremely early, just recently got a lot of hype. I mean, I heard about it through Logan Paul's podcast. I think a lot of people in the Pokemon world heard about it through his podcast because we're all listening to him now. They have some crazy valuation of like $1 billion, which I don't know how that makes any sense. I mean, you see just the broad research that I did, like the founders of the app have like 2 million followers. So I'm guessing they have 2 million users, because if it's like your best friend Tom from MySpace, everybody that joins it probably automatically follows those guys. At least that's what I would think. But yeah, there's some dedicated clubs now. They call them clubs for Pokemon, and one of the largest ones has 1.2, 1.3 thousand members, or 1,000. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I've been hopping in some of these chats and being put on the panel, like the portion where you talk to everybody with Pokenomics, CNG Emporium, Pat Flynn, and like the founder or the creators of the clubs, I guess. I'm still working on the lingo, I guess, that they use there. And they've had like anywhere from 20 to like 100 people in on these round tables. I don't know what they even call them. So it's been pretty interesting. I mean, it's a very basic level right now. The people involved, you know, it's a huge range of collectors, of brand new people asking about McDonald's promos, all the way to like PSA affiliated people who know a lot about grading and have been doing it for 20 plus years. So there's a very wide range of knowledge, experience, and just arrays of life in this new Clubhouse thing. And I'm trying to be a part of it. I'm down to take that high risk, high reward. It's very little work right now. If I'm just chilling in bed or chilling wherever and can put the app on and listen in or get thrown up in the panel. I've enjoyed it so far, but yeah, I don't know where it's gonna lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the idea of it. I think my other issue kind of falls in the marketing of it. So unlike Instagram, which, you know, probably had its beta users and that kind of thing, and maybe this is like how they're looking at it is effectively like their beta, but it's almost the way it's marketed I don't really like, in the sense of like we're an exclusive club or clubhouse, right? And so, but you can invite a couple of your friends to that exclusive club, and then they can invite a couple of their friends, because you get X amount of invites and you can earn more as you use the app. That to me is like almost like sounds like a pyramid scheme, which like gives me bad vibes, which maybe isn't what they're going for. But it's like that same idea though, right? Like, hey, listen, I've got this great business opportunity now. It's pretty exclusive. Not everyone can get in, but look, I've got 2 invites. So Edison, Radar, guys, trust me, get in on this. And then you guys can also get 2 invites, but only close friends, you know? And like, it's like that same idea. And I don't like, if you want a platform, like, and that's kind of my qualm, right? Is like, if I'm getting on there because I want to network and grow and really market myself, isn't the goal to have as many users there as possible so you can extend your reach as far as possible? And if, like, how long is this process going to roll out where you have to be invited by another member? Is it always going to be that way? Is it like, I don't know. It feels kind of just, I don't know. I just don't really like it. I don't really have a word for it. Like, disingenuous is not really the word I'm looking for, but I don't really like the structure of that.
It just feels like I was just reading an article right now, like as we were talking about this, but I still don't see how this is any different than what like Discord already provides to people. Like, it seems like the same idea. Like, the pictures that the New York Times was like using was that one of the founders is like on a walk with like, you know, on a conference call. But that you can literally do that with Discord. You can do it with Google Voice. Like, I'm not understanding. Like, it really just seems like the valuation of it, or like why people are interested, is like the idea that like you can kind of monetize communicating with certain people.
Yeah, I think people are tying it into Patreon and stuff like that, where they provide, you know, their links, or I don't know how they're doing it, but it's like you said, Sean. It's like built around. I called you Sean. Squeaks. It's creating this exclusivity factor, this wow, you know, like secret factor around it to get people excited. And I'm sure they'll be able to monetize it on their own at some point. But yeah, it's really just like streamlining that whole Discord process. Like, I built a little server for my pokeradar podcast early on, but there's literally no moderation. There's no rules, no nothing. So like, if I kept that growing and didn't do anything about it, it would have got way out of hand. and just completely inappropriate and just been awful for everybody in it. So this is like, it's just kind of built in. It's already there. I mean, we're seeing that with a lot of apps come up in the world now. And I mean, if within cards too, of just streamlining that whole process of not needing to build a back end on your own or finding someone to do it.
Because, okay, so I just thought of something that hadn't really popped in my head before, but as I'm like playing out like the progression of this app, like how it could look over time, right? As they like integrate Android and bring in more users, or if they ever took away like the invite two friends kind of thing. Because right now the appeal of this is that you can get into a room and maybe talk to people that you would not have had access to otherwise, right? Like that's the marketing appeal of it, that you can create network connections that maybe the opportunity before just didn't exist unless you were on like LinkedIn or something like that. But the problem is, once you start opening the floodgates of just any Joe can come in there, right? And anyone from any walk of life that, you know, and I don't mean this in a rude way, but maybe they don't really have anything interesting to contribute to your journey, right? Don't you just find then that those groups will probably end up just getting more and more segmented and more restricted and moderated into who is allowed in and who is not allowed in? And there's going to be like the cool click clubs that you try to get in, and the other ones that like the average Joes are in because like they can't get an Elon Musk's call because Elon Musk doesn't have time to talk to, you know, random average Joe about Pokemon card, like that kind of thing. And like it just ends up becoming more fragmented into like these already like very secluded cliques that already exist in many other social media platforms where these type of network influencers already have the ability to talk to each other. And so I think right now, yeah, the idea is great. You can get in there and maybe you can meet a lot of these people that you've never met before. But as this platform itself progresses, I don't see how they're going to be able to maintain that without effectively just creating a divided community.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, I think creating divided communities is kind of the way of the world. There's a lot of money in that. I mean, even for myself, like I charge money to do consultations. I've been sitting in this app for free for people to come in and ask questions, and I'm there answering them. If I got to the point where I got 1 million followers on this app, and there was an opportunity where I could basically sell like pay-per-view tickets to people to join my lives, like I'm 100% going to take advantage of that, because knowledge is very, very valuable as well as the time. So, if you creating limited rooms, having a limited availability of tickets to drive that interest into have that potential to speak with you, listen to you, whatever. I mean, I love talking. That's why I do these podcasts. It's something I enjoy doing. I think I'm good at it. I'm comfortable with it. So that's something that I would enjoy, being like a public speaker and getting paid to do that. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. And if this app helps me get to that place where I'm able to do that, not only there, but in a bigger setting as well at some point, I think this is just a easier way to get into that world or figure it out for me, instead of asking a bunch of people or trying to do it the old fashioned way.
I think
which probably would work better.
Everything you said just kind of like that was what I was trying to like bring up too, is that it just points to like the goal is monetization out of this. Because like, I mean, Sean's Squeaks, I guess.
He mentions
about meeting new people and like how this could like provide some platform. And like I go back to like the whole idea of Discord, because like I met you and Radar through Discord. Like as I've told you many times in the past, I just watched one of your videos. I was like, oh, I agree with this guy. He sounds pretty interesting. I'll join Discord. And then from there, you meet people within that Discord that introduce you to new topics. And I mean, I'm using Discord as like kind of like a crutch to this, but I feel like there's so many opportunities so far to meet people and to grow that I feel like Clubhouse can't replace what exists. And then, as Radar said, like it really just seems like if you can monetize people coming in to watch you talk about topics, that's like I think that's where this goes. It's almost like you can have like almost as you charge tickets to see like Elon Musk talk with Kanye West, and like that type of thing.
Yeah, and this is kind of like my greater thought process on it is like that monetization there, like the goal of it definitely exists, right? Like that's how you get the idea of $1 billion valuation, is that like people could then make money off it, which is what keeps them interested. But are they really providing anything that doesn't already exist? And this to me is kind of one of the bigger picture things of social media as a whole, is people's attention span on social media tends to wane to whatever the newest thing is. And so in the idea of, do they provide anything that doesn't already exist? I'd say the answer is no, right? Like, you can connect a Patreon to like doing exclusive YouTube videos or doing like, you know, an exclusive Discord or whatever. Like, these things already exist, but maybe one of the appeals is it's the new thing. And so people join it because it's the new thing, because it's not the Instagram they've already used for years or the Facebook they've already used for years, etc. And so then they join that, and then they have a new opportunity to grow because maybe they can be one of the fresh fish, right? I think that's like the same concept as to like why so many people started streaming on Mixer, was that same idea of like, it's the new thing and it gives me a better launch pad to maybe start, right? Maybe there's not as many eyes on it, but the eyes that are on it have a better chance of being on me versus like this Twitch platform that's already well established. Now, obviously we saw that did not pan out well, and I think that's how most of them would go, and how you could see something like Clubhouse going. But it could also like be the opposite, right? Where a lot of people had said before when Twitter came out, well, Twitter's just like a timeline on Facebook. Like, what's the difference? And look at where Twitter is today. I mean, struggling somewhat, but it is still a social media powerhouse. And so it's hard to know, will Clubhouse be or not be successful? But I agree with Edison in the sense that like, if your goal is not monetization, and you're not just like a social butterfly that just like wants to chat with people for fun, I don't really see you gravitating towards the app in general.
And like, also, I don't know, like, it seems like these are town hall meetings. Like, that's what they're promoting too. Like, lots of people all in a room sitting together. It's almost like the way that Raider described it, is like you're the panel at like a convention or something, and all these other people, your audience, watching. Like, maybe I'm probably just not the target demographic, but that doesn't seem interesting.
See, and
like, I wouldn't use it.
That's my fear though. Like, as Pokemon, right? Like Pokemon content, who's the target demographic of this app, right? Is the target demographic like CEOs and executives and stuff like that? Which, like, there's definitely like utility there to like meeting like PSA executives or CGC executives or like whoever's on there. But your average Joe, like Pokemon collector, like very well may not be that person, or at least not that person yet, to where like them gravitating there over like a Discord or a Reddit, like subreddit or something like that, to me just doesn't seem nearly as high. Like their big like promotion of like Elon Musk is in a room like using this, right? Because like I can't imagine he just stumbled on Clubhouse one day like all on his own. Like maybe he did, I don't know.
They paid him a lot, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. That like, who are they attempting to get into this, and does that match up with the demographic that I'm trying to reach out to? And you know, I think everyone has to ask themselves that, right? Like, your demographic radar of who you're trying to reach is much different than mine. And so like for you, I could see this making a ton more sense. And whereas like for me, I'm not sure it does. I'm still going to try it. I got to find a way to get access to it because I don't have an iPhone, but like, yeah.
People are asking for you. They're asking for you when I'm in there, so.
How do people even know?
Because Radar and Squeaks
go
hand in hand.
The duo,
but,
soon to be.
Yeah, the app is going to take a lot to be successful. It's going to take both the Elon Musk types and then obviously just the normal who's or what's.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can only go so far with a panel of, like I said, it was me, ZG Emporium, and Pokenomics. So it only goes as far as like our small communities that follow us.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Leonhardt, PokeRev, or whatever, they bring in more people, but that's still not Elon Musk level, Logan Paul level, whatever level. They need to get both parts included, and I don't know how they do that moving forward. But enough about that. I want to talk about PWCC because this is going to be a very historic auction this month. It's going to be started today, 17th. Today's the 16th, but when this is posted, the 17th.
Yep.
10-day auctions ending on February 27th, Pokemon Day, the day that red and green came out in Japan.
Wait a minute.
I didn't even know that.
Question.
Wow.
Cards came out October 25th.
This is ending on the 27th.
On the 27th.
This is ending at the same time that Pokemon is doing a Post Malone concert, at the same time that Logan Paul is doing a box break for a first edition base. Disaster.
Same time that I'm announcing my OnlyFans.
Damn, I don't know what.
Now I don't even. Oh man, I was set on the Post Malone concert, but dang.
This might be my opportunity.
Yeah, this is going to be wild.
Who
Having all
thought of
that
this? This is terrible. Like, this doesn't. Okay.
Well, I mean, from their perspective, it makes sense. Like why they're ending it now. You know, it's like it's for the anniversary. I assume like they're in their mind they want to end it on the anniversary. Like it's obvious Pokemon's going to do something. So it's not really like these people all have to like talk to each other about it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I don't think they have to talk to each other. It's just like, agreed. It's obvious Pokemon's going to do something. Like, I can see like, oh, I want to put it on the day, capitalize on that hype. But at the same time, like PWCC already knew before posting this that Logan Paul was doing his thing on this day and that Pokemon had announced their Post Malone concert. Like, they very well could have shifted this a day later, done a PR announcement. Like, I don't know, man. I cannot. This is bad.
So I know that Logan Paul was planning to do on this day, like in October.
Yeah, this has been a long. This was like teased ever since he did the first box break.
Yeah, and then PWCC, I'm sure, planned it out way ahead of time. But you have to realize that Logan Paul wasn't around for the 20th anniversary, so he had no idea that Pokemon did stuff like that. PWCC wasn't hot in Pokemon at all for the last anniversary either, so they probably didn't even think about it. I mean, even myself, I came in after that, I think, or I probably wasn't even paying attention to that specific type of thing with Pokemon when I came back in, because I almost set up an event for that day as well. I'm glad we pushed it back.
Spoilers.
So yeah, it's gonna be a weird night. And like, I mean, I sent off some cards at PWCC, one big one specifically, the Play Promo Espeon. Think it would be a pretty great opportunity, but I keep going back and forth now I just saw where it's posted in the auction block, and I'm like, okay, now I need to figure out when is this concert, when is Logan Paul's thing, because I don't know what time they're doing these things at. Are people going to be burnt out by the end of the night? Most
I'm
likely.
burnt out already.
I mean, I think it's a great opportunity, Edison, for you to pick up some cards.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking, like, realistically, what's your actual overlap between these people? Like, how many? I honestly assume most of the people watching the Pokemon event are kids, like sub 16 years old. I mean, maybe even younger than that. Like, that's, I think, a majority of the people are going to be watching that. And then I think even then, there's not a huge portion of those people who are going to watch Logan Paul's thing, because I think Logan Paul's demographic is like 20-something-year-olds, like young 20s. Like, even of those young 20-year-olds, how many of those people are actually bidding on, multi-$100 cards, when most people in their early 20s don't even have cash in their bank account? So, like, I understand, like, all this stuff is ending at the same time, but, like, you also don't need, like, a million people to look at a card on PWCC to make it go up. You could just have two people who are really set on the price and wanting this item.
Well, I'm glad we brought you in that insight, dude. Like,
that's what I'm here for.
Yeah,
so this guy.
Yeah, and so Radar, you and I have kind of discussed this one in the past about like the overlap of where these things would fall, right? Like, I like your reference to the Post Malone concert. I would say that instead of doing like an age reference, I would say it's more just like your casual community, right? Like, I'm not sure that like your hardcore diehard, like, I think most diehard fans are gonna like check it out to kind of see what's going on there. Maybe they do like a cool announcement or something like that. But I'm gonna go see like what they're doing. Maybe it'll interest me, maybe it won't. Like, hopefully it hooks me. But the reality is, like, I'll probably watch for 10 minutes and then move on to the things that I'm more interested in. I would say your overlap between PWCC and Logan Paul's break are much heavier. And I actually think that this hurts Logan Paul more than it hurts PWCC. Because the reality is, most of us have seen a first dead box broken within the last year. And this is kind of one of those things we talked about with all these high-end box breaks, is that eventually you just kind of become desensitized to them. While I think it's really cool and this is going to be exciting, and I think it's cool that people got to bid on the packs this time instead of just kind of like being in that networked community and you had the opportunity to buy one, to see who bought them. I think that's cool, but I don't know that that's going to be enough to draw me away from like this big like auction spectacle of 79 pages worth of cards that pretty much spans the whole game. And if you don't already have a financial investment into one of those packs that you bought, I don't feel like the appeal necessarily is maybe there as much to watch it versus just like watching a highlight video later or something later where you just see what was pulled, right? I would much rather just go watch a 10-minute video later, see all the hits and the highlights than to watch 3 hours waiting for that when I could go watch like 3 hours of something new and exciting happening every 3 seconds. Like,
Yeah, I do really agree with Edison though. I think the age group ranges are pretty dead on with what how you broke it up, based on the demographic of Logan Paul and who's buying stuff and who's watching that Post Malone concert. There is going to be a mixture, of course, but I think that makes a lot of sense with the age groups.
Well, also like off of like Sean said, it's just like, are you saying like without a shadow of a doubt that if there was no PWCC auction that night, you would sit through like 3 hours of box break for
probably,
first edition?
yeah. Because I sat through the last one and I enjoyed it, but now if I'm like having to pick and choose, then I'm like, and that's the thing, right? Regardless of which side you choose, it's the fact that now you unless you've got like 4 monitors or something, you have to make a choice. And I think inherently that just hurts it in general, right? Like from all 3 of their perspectives, I think all of them would do better if it was 27th, 8th, and 9th, and they each had a day, than if there was any overlap at all. Because it inherently, no matter what, there are going to be some users that are conflicted, right? What if a parent wanted to bid in PWCC on a card or watch the Logan Paul break to see like these really expensive things go, but their kid really wants to watch the Pokemon Day concert? And so well, what are they going to watch, right? And so like, while this may be like a small percentage of the overall community and people will just kind of gravitate towards their demographic, I do think that there is just going to be a section of that community that is divided and will either flip back and forth or miss parts or do whatever. And I think that in a sense is kind of unfortunate. And the reason I say the Logan Paul one specifically is because so much of that pack value was derived out of advertisement, right? And so you want as many eyes and all eyes on it at all times.
You think it'll be bigger? It'll be more than 300,000, or how many was it? His first one, 350,000 viewers.
I think 350.
I don't know.
350.
I don't know if it will be.
That number seems right because I really do remember like a 350 mark.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be bigger. I don't know about the last number either, but I don't know if it'll be bigger. I think there's a lot going against it, specifically 2 other events, but also just the fact that, again, the desensitization. Many people have already seen a first ed box broken in the last year.
I would honestly argue that like the bigger thing is the fact that like he opened a box already. That was like the biggest. That was like the craziest thing that had happened in Pokemon for a long time. And like,
but this is $1 million box, dude. $1 million.
I don't think most people care about that.
Yeah, like I'm curious like how important that is to people. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like we don't place any value on that, but I'm very confident he has like a team of 5-6 people that are behind him, like telling him like this is how you have to drive the direction and interest. It's like maybe they have research that. Yeah, $2 million on Pokemon is like a
because like I get what you're saying, right? $1 million box, dude. The most expensive, but like it's also just still the same box that was opened like months ago. That was not $1 million box. Like you could slap whatever, you could call it a $10 million box, but at the end of the day, it's still a first edition base box. Inherently, it's gonna have 36 packs in it, probably 12 holos, and 0 to 3 Charizards. Like that is the construction of what the event will be. Right? So. Yeah. That's how I feel about it.
He got 20 million subs with that headline, with those headlines. Mm-hmm. That's how he built that's how YouTubers build their livelihood, is with headlines like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the biggest one yet. So I would think it would be bigger, especially just because it's tied to that number. But
here's my fear though. Because last time that was trending #1 on YouTube. It beat out iPhone's announcement. But you know what else is going to be on YouTube?
They had a lot more views.
Huh?
That iPhone announcement had way more views.
It had way more views, but on the trending that day, Logan Paul's was #1 and iPhone's announcement was #2. So maybe long term it didn't beat it, right? But like that's algorithm things blowing up. But like that same night, guess what else is going to be trending on YouTube and on Twitch? The Post Malone Pokemon Day concert.
Yeah. But also, like, what's the time overlap? Like, I'm completely out of. I don't know when the Pokemon concert is. I can't. Like,
I don't know.
That's in the evening.
PWCC
I don't know
like
when
11.
Logan Paul's break is specifically.
But he did that in the evening previously too. That was like 7 p.m.
I think PWCC is like 8 to midnight now Eastern time. It's like a 4-hour block usually. I mean, this one was how many cards?
79 pages, so I'm assuming.
It was like
79
3,900 and some, I think it was.
Yeah, half of it was like German base set.
Yeah.
You were complaining about that.
Okay, I'm not even mad that like those cards are in. Like, I think it's cool that someone submit. It's just that there's like 12 pages of German base set BGS 9s, common and uncommons. Like, if it was like one or two of each, cool. But there's like 12 of each one.
Yeah, I mean, the last few times that I've streamed that, I think I skipped the last one. It's just dreadful going through that block of base set. They could easily split things up, move things around. But yeah, that like honestly, hour and a half of base set first edition through German unlimited, whatever unlimited, it's hard. Like I like watching the first edition stuff, the Shadowless stuff, but yeah, when it's just 40 Charizards, 30 Venusaurs, 40 Blastoise, it just gets old real fast.
Well, and it's also it's so tough to analyze it then, because there's like, did people just not bid on the middle ones because they didn't see them because they were moving so fast? Like, it's really hard. Like, one of the video things I do is I'll recap the PWCC like the day or two after, and that's my last one was my most successful video I've ever done. How do I recap 3,900 auctions in 10 to 15 minutes? Like, it's not possible.
That's why it was so successful.
Yeah, like like I can like pick out highlights and things like that. But now, I mean, the PWCC blocks that they're allowing to be made are just becoming so exhaustive and so expansive that like there's just no way to cover everything. And so like for you, I sympathize because you're gonna do a live, I presume, over this. Maybe, I don't even know, because there's so much else going on that night. But if you do, what do you talk about on page 12 of German base set, or your 38th gold star that comes up, or your 49th hyper rare? Like, the talking points, like they do run out, right? And even
that's when I start playing TFT.
Exactly, yeah. Start playing TFT on your and I'm sure PWCC Edison for you is big because I've been watching your channel. You send a lot of graded cards off. You've been doing like what you're sending, that kind of thing. So watching kind of what the market is doing is important. Do you think you're gonna kind of gravitate to watching everything in PWCC that night?
Like we've talked about this like in passing, but for all the like the big news and stuff, like about where Pokemon sales go, I'm so disinterested in PWCC. It's like the first hour is just going to be WotC stuff that I've seen for the past months. People just dumping it, and like the stuff that I send off is like mostly like modern Japanese, modern English, and like promos. And that's the stuff that you don't see, listed on PWCC. That's the stuff that just does well because it does well. And like, I mean, I don't. Oh shoot, it's probably really loud.
This guy's popular. We're happy.
Yeah, I know. It was really hard for us to get him on. We had to ask him 17 times for him to join our podcast.
We refuse to have anyone else on before.
Yeah, and we only have 22 minutes and 49 seconds left with him before we have to pay another $812. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know why you said 812. It's kind of low for me. Just like close that point. Yeah, like I'm not interested in PWCC for the reason that so much of this stuff is repeated. And the stuff like the sales don't really matter too, because like auctions don't really. I don't know. It's like I keep saying stuff doesn't matter to me, but like auctions are only like a blip in a moon. Eventually, you just throw it up, buy it now, and stuff will sell.
Wow, it can't be a blip.
Like maybe if you have a huge item like the trophies and stuff, like the play promo that you have. That matters.
Yeah, that was going to be my comment. Was there are a couple auctions that do matter this month. We have my 50,000 point play promo 2005 Japanese Gold Star Hollow Espeon back at 9. Check it out. It's a beautiful card. One of like 25 graded between PSA and okay. And then we have of course, the poster child, the PSA 7 Pikachu Illustrator, which. The last public auction of this was what, a Heritage 9 that sold for 250,000 ish.
Which, yeah, but we've seen how many sold since then. The big trade, the multiple overseas,
I still don't consider those Japanese sales as public.
No, and they're
because
not.
people
I'm
don't
just saying, like,
understand.
that last one was 250K, and we've seen plenty that had less accessibility go for way more. So we should
Yeah.
expect this one. I can't even imagine. Like, if I
What
throw out a
did,
number, it's just wrong.
Piconos sell for? Was that 42,000? That was 420,000, right?
So they were, I think it matched at like 250 after that last one. And then we saw 300, 420. Non-Picono was 320.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another like PSA something 9 in there for 350, 400. And then the 900,000 evaluated trade.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of activity with illustrators, more so than many other trophy cards. But I still feel like people don't know that. I mean, within our community, we all are very well aware of it. But outside of that, the people that have the money to buy this stuff, I feel like they're not aware of it as in as much detail as they should be. So yeah, I'll be curious to see what happens with it. PSA 7, and grade. I always kind of say that grade for this type of card doesn't matter, but some are saying it'll go for $1 million. I think it'll hit like the 700,000 range. You know, I mean, no one knows until it happens, but that'll be kind of a historic sale, and in my opinion, will change the trophy market, the Japanese trophy market for good.
Yeah, it's all resting on what you think.
What if it didn't? Like, what if it went low?
What's low?
Yeah, when you said
lower than
said
lower
700,
than its 420 is its highest price. What if it like just matched it or went lower?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I think it might go for like. I would be very surprised if it broke like 500,000.
Because like right now the narrative is always imagine how high these would be if one hit the American market or the NA market or the accessibility, right? They're always gate kept behind like, you know, Yahoo Japan or wherever. You got to use that market, you got to use these middlemen. So like there's always all these narratives about like the difficulty and accessibility and what happens if you make them accessible. Where would the price go? Get your moon boots on, you know, we're going to the moon, right? But what happens?
That's my business model right now. Careful, Squeaks.
What happens if it does? Well, no. But like, I don't think it like crashes the trophy market. But like, what happens though if the card doesn't set a new record price? I mean that would shake things up almost more, I think, than a record price would.
I think so too. You're right about that. And yeah, I'll be curious. Like the one interesting thing is the people that have been looking for one have missed out the opportunity on these past 3 or 4 raw ones from Japan. And from what we've seen, I think 2 of them graded 9s. And these people got this card for 300,000-400,000, whatever they paid, whatever moment they bought it, and they got PSA 9s. And there's been that narrative written that it's $900,000 now because of that trade. So a 7, could very easily go for that 300,000, 400,000 mark. I mean, maybe even less because the last public US PSA 9 sold for 250. Yeah, that would be very interesting. I'd be curious what would be discussed on YouTube.
Well, go to your boy's channel 10 minutes after the auction ends and I'll have a video.
Yeah, I mean, like the certain individuals that have owned and sold or currently own, I'm curious if they'd share their thoughts on it. I don't know. I have no idea.
You almost wonder if people that own a large amount of trophies, if it's just in their interest to inherently bid on this and buy it themselves to make sure that that price point is reflected high.
Yeah, I mean, I've been patient on my Pikachu trophy card, the authenticated altered one. I've been patient to post that it's for sale. It is for sale, but I haven't posted that publicly because I wanted to wait for this auction to end. You know, in my mind, I think it's going to go well and it'll help the price of my card. But yeah, if it goes poorly, I think it'll hurt the price of my card, because although they're different cards, that whole world of that high tier S tier trophy cards, you got to use comparables to each other because there's just not a lot of price data. So yeah, this affects more than just the Illustrator. It affects a whole position of cards that people hold.
Yeah.
I'm still I'm kind of in the opposite camp that like even if it goes low, I don't think that bodes poorly for the rest of it, because like you mentioned that people might be bidding up like these stuff to like have a higher ending price, so it reflects better on their, like, I guess you could say, portfolio of cards. But there's also probably a lot of people who are bidding up these cards who are genuinely excited at the option to buy it for a price lower than what it ends up going for.
Yeah.
There's probably people who are going to bid up to a couple, like 200,000, that even if it goes for that, they got it. I don't think they would break a sweat because now they got it for 200,000. They wanted the card anyway.
Yeah.
They just got it for, in their mind, it's almost like buying the dip, but like they're just, you got a cheap opportunity to buy it. Like,
yeah.
And I think the other thing too is, like we kind of mentioned, like people who own the cards. I think a lot of the people who have the cards now also got them at a right price point where these kind of bumpy sales don't really matter because they have no intention of selling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even in the short term. So like it's very divisive, where this might be like one of the last opportunities for people to buy the cards. But I guess my overall position is still that like I would price it maybe like 400, 500,000. I would say.
Okay.
So do you think though, if the price goes low, that hurts future sales prices, or do you think people just look at it as an outlier?
Well, he said that. He has said that. Like, I think we've kept very good track of where these illustrators are and certain trophies are, and a very large portion, I think like 85 or 90% of these cards are in the hands of people who have diamond hands, who can hold on to it and sell it at whatever price point they want. There's only a select few that have these things that may need to sell at some point for, financial reasons. So to those people, if one of them were to pick this up, or whoever picks it up, there would be zero reason for them to ever sell under a price point that they imagine it's worth. That $2 million, $3 million we see on eBay for a PSA 9 listing or whatever. Like, and that makes a lot of sense. That's a smart thing to do, because there are no other opportunities to buy these things. So yeah, it's a case of whoever gets a hold of it and how long they can hold, or how far they can hold out for price wise.
Yeah, it's also like if you can afford to drop $400,000 plus tax on a Pokemon card, are you really going to be sweating that much if it goes down $100,000? Like,
I hope the winner has a reseller's license.
Yeah,
just the amount of money, like it's like astronomical to think about, like how much money these people like you're actually dropping on cards. Yeah. So like it's almost like a different bracket, because I cannot relate to spending that much money. Even spending like over $1,000 on a single thing, it's like out of reach for me. So like it's just, and I mentioned this before too, with like in terms of like you only need 2 people to bring the card price up. Really, if there is only 2 people bidding this up, I guess it could just run, because it's like that idea. It's the last public option they have before they have to turn to the 2 million 9. So like, oh, what's $1 million for a 7 if I have to pay 2 million for a 9?
Yeah, because there's no guarantee another ever comes up, right? And I think that's one big point as well, is throughout the last year and a half, as a community, we've been kind of spoiled, because it's kind of like an Illustrator sells and you just, another one will come up here in a couple days, I'm sure, like, and then it does. There's no guarantee that goes forever, right? And the next one could always be the last one, or at least the last one for a while. And so
we haven't seen one listed since the last one sold. And I know those people over in Japan, they pay attention to eBay. So that could be where the real opportunity lies, is if this thing sells cheap, someone could get scared in Japan and list it for whatever the one in PWCC sold for. And it could be, 200,000 or whatever. And there's the opportunity.
Let me just get my $200,000 together.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Yeah,
Uh,
same.
I think I don't know if this is like interesting, but the Picono one like kind of surprised me because it was a buy it now at 420,000, and it just stood there for a week for like the full auction period. And it's only in like the last, I think, 10 minutes of the auction that it got purchased for the 420,000.
Mhm.
And like I think the starting bid was 410,000. So like that 10,000 kept it up for a week before someone was like, okay, I'm just gonna purchase this price.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I don't think this applies here, but I just was like very surprised that it actually got bought for like what I thought was an absurd price for the card.
Yeah.
But if that's the one that graded a 9, like
That's the one that graded a 9.
You know what will be interesting though is after
Hmm.
this auction, we should go back and talk. Do you remember when we did the podcast where we talked about the $900,000 trade? We should
Yeah, I
go
remember
look
that.
at how we assessed that trade and how we talked about like, oh, what if more illustrators came out? What if an English one sold? Like, we should actually analyze what we said based on that.
Yes.
Because now we've gotten the
Yeah.
results, right? Like, we will have seen pretty. I mean, it won't be a 9, right? Or a raw 1. It's a 7, but like, we can make the comparisons there. Like, I
Yeah.
bet we said some on point stuff and some not on point stuff there. Like,
Absolutely.
so yeah, the second
Probably
maybe
what
we
you
shouldn't
said was
do
on
it.
point. What I said was just off the rails.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be the craziest thing to watch, of course. The one thing that I'm really even more so interested in, because there's just been, in my mind, ridiculous valuations on the box. The EX Deoxys booster box for sale. I'm really, really curious to see what that one goes for, because I don't know what happened, but at some point a few months ago, people were throwing around the idea that there were $100,000 offers out on this box when none have sold. I thought it was maybe 35, 40,000. I don't know who was throwing these rumors around. Nobody ended up taking an offer, which I thought was ridiculous. I would have snapped that. I would have let that thing go in a second for $100K. And then prices started to lower. Like I heard someone was offering one for $90K, didn't get picked up. So this whole Deoxys box, I think there was a lot of shenanigans going on a couple months ago with the whole Gold Star stuff and certain people trying to sell the box. So I'm really curious to see what that one goes for.
Yeah, EX Deoxys is tough because it has one of the absolute grails in the hobby in Rayquaza. It also has 2 big hitters in Latios and Latias. And I would say it's probably the pinnacle of that era. Debatable. I think EX Team Rocket Returns is, if you actually like scale those up point to point, I think that set actually has a lot of merit as to why it could be better. But taking it just for what it is, the king of that era, I mean, it's definitely up there in the class of like Skyridge and maybe fringely First Ed Base. If First Ed Base is $400,000 a box, possibly more now because of the Logan Paul thing, why couldn't EX Deoxys be $100,000? Like, it's literally arguably in the top, like, 5 boxes, if not the top 3 of boxes within the card game, only probably being eclipsed by Skyridge, that to me, it makes sense. And I'm not even fully convinced that Skyridge eclipses EX Deoxys at this point, because you see Skyridge more often than you see EX Deoxys, and if you take their big hitter, Crystal Charizard versus Gold Ray, I mean, I think Gold Ray wins that in a 10 battle all day. So, like...
Well, First Ed Base, you have a very good shot at getting a Charizard. Skyridge is probably like 1 in 2 boxes. You get Crystal Charizard. Deoxys is 1 in 6 for the Rayquaza.
Mm-hmm.
You're guaranteed a gold star in a booster box of EX Deoxys?
We
No,
believe
right?
it's 1 in 2.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've opened enough and seen enough open to really solidify that, but that's what's been written.
Is it 1 in 2? I always thought it was 1 in 3 gold stars, or 1 in 3 boxes, 2 per case.
I was like 7 when this came out. I don't know.
I've opened like 2 packs of this in my life.
Well, and so here's a point I want to make, and I don't think this point is made enough, right? In fact, I already have this on my list to make another video, but since we're talking about it, I just want to like bring it up now. And this is one of the reasons anytime anyone ever asks me like, man, I wish they'd make like 1 of 1 cards, or like, 1 out of 5, or do like 1 per case type cards. The inherent problem with stuff like that, and this is kind of what happened with the Gold Stars specifically, is you can almost search boxes without searching boxes. right? If you crack a case and you take your first box out and open and you get a gold star, and gold stars were 1 per case, or say you open your first 2 boxes, you get a gold star in each, and they're 2 per case, you know those other 4 boxes almost surely are duds, right? Which makes the likelihood of like even buying a box risky. It's the same concept of like buying a loose pack of a box if all the hits have been hit, you know, that same idea,
Right.
but on a bigger scale to where now you're almost like having to buy sealed cases instead of just buying individual boxes. And I think that problem only compounds like once one of ones and things like that are introduced. And this is why like anytime anyone ever asks me like, man, do you wish they'd do this? From like a financial perspective, like some degrees, yes. Although then I think like a lot of distributor games get played and stuff like that. I actually don't, because I actually think it's really bad, and I think it creates like a really negative atmosphere for the community. And that's why I'm like always hesitant when people are like, oh man, you should buy this box, like it's got a chance of a gold star. I hear someone's gonna like crack an EX era box, because you don't have any guarantee that that didn't come from a case, that it wasn't the gold stars ripped and those are just dud boxes. And it doesn't mean they're tampered with or opened or anything in any way, just the inherent nature of like how that product worked. They could be duds. And that's why I've like never liked them as an investment, because I think that's something that eventually the market as a whole, as Pokemon matures as like an investable asset, people are going to become privy to. And I do think it will hinder it versus going in something like Skyridge or something like First Ed Base. And even Skyridge kind of has that issue with the crystals. I think the difference is that you generally like get a crystal per box. It can happen where you don't, but for the most part you do. Sometimes 2, or sometimes one's a reverse. But at least there you like inherently have like the H foils as well, that you will get quite a few of them in the box, which like will help buffer that value. Whereas a lot of those EX era boxes are kind of ride or die on the gold stars. Like you either hit a gold star or you don't. Like there's other value there, but that's pretty much what you're aiming for. Because back then I think EX pull rate was like 2 or 3 per box. And some of them are just still today duds that you hit a gold star or you don't there. Whereas like Skyridge or First Ed Base, those have more of a pad to them.
Yeah. So that's why I think it'll go, or should go lower than what people were talking about.
And that's why I think Team Rocket Returns like is like a tangent, could actually outpace longer. One, those boxes are harder to find. And there's a lot more in those sets. Like, if you look at, like, reverse holos and team... What?
Yeah, EX-wise, there's way better EXs.
Yeah, there's way better EXs in all of the Rockets EXs. All 3 gold stars are winners, which so are they in EX Deoxys. But the big key is, like, the reverse holos. And Team Rocket Returns outpace pretty much everything in the EX era. I mean, you can take even some of the more, like, mid-tier ones, like both Dragonairs and things like that, or all of the dark Pokemon like Dark Crobat, and all of those are in reverse foil graded now, are starting to get into the multi-hundreds or some even thousands of dollars in a 10, where like can really help carry that weight of the box where you're not so top heavy. Because that's kind of what we always talk about, right? Our box price is going to become so inflated that there's never incentive to open them, even for like pack breaks and booster box breaks. And I think that's one of the things is like a breaker that I would be looking at, is what makes Team Rocket Returns so strong is there's still a lot of incentive to open it, even if you're not going to hit that upper echelon card. The same way that like Skyridge, there's a lot of incentive to open it and hit an H foil versus not necessarily just always getting the crystal. I don't think EX Deoxys really has that. I think it's kind of feels like gold star or bust.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I also just really like Team Rocket Returns, so maybe I'm biased, but great set.
Well, no, it's box art better than any other EX box art. Yeah, Holos, Dark Pokemon, EXs. I'm not a fan of the gold stars in that set, but whatever.
It's also a set that preys off the nostalgia of Team
Yeah.
Rocket set, which like tons of people that are entering, the ones that have the money in the community, probably have some nostalgia for like Dark Charizard, Dark Blastoise, like those old sets. And it's like literally the return of that set, essentially. Like, I think it's like the most slept on set probably in Pokemon, like as a whole.
I've always that's like a larger point, but like that's why I kind of shill EX cards so much, because like my age group and like the people that are around my age that are getting back into Pokemon or have their own income now. Like I remember growing up and getting 1 booster pack from that era. So in that respect, it's almost like I don't know, like now is like EX. I still feel like is still pretty cheap. A lot of these EX cards, when you think about how hard they were to pull from a booster box,
Mm-hmm.
and a booster pack is still cheap. It's more expensive than like a PSA or a CGC 8 or 9 in these cards.
Yeah.
So it just makes no sense. Like I don't want to say undervalued. Well, no, I do think they are undervalued when you think about how hard this stuff is really to pull. And I don't think people have really come around to realizing how tough that whole EX era of chase card is to come by.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're not.
And watching the history of sports and Magic and everything else, as box prices creep up, those chase cards continue to creep up. Other stuff follows suit. So there's never this like disgusting, like complete waste of money. There's always that gamble. There's always that chance.
Yeah.
To make money or to break even, I guess. So I haven't really done the math or looked at it, the EV of a Deoxys box, but if you were to pay $70,000 for the box, get a 10 Ray and everything else, I'm sure you make money on it. Yeah. With all those reverses, all those whatever EXs, they pull 10s, of course.
Yeah.
Like, get incredibly lucky. But that's the gamble, right? I mean, you open up a Magic Alpha starter, like you got to pull one of the Power 9. You open a first Ed base box, you got to pull a 10 Charizard.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think you have to note with the EX era set, because of the way the silvering happened on the edges of the cards predominantly, that like getting 10s is incredibly difficult, which I think will shy people away from ever making that gamble in the long term, as that becomes a more well-known thing. Again, to a lot of us ingrained in the community, that is well-known, right? But to a lot of people entering, that is not a thing that they've encountered yet. And I mean, an EX Deoxys of every EX era set is notorious for it, like how bad it was. And to the point for a while, there were questions on to whether or not grading companies would take that under advisement in terms of how they doled out their grades. And I think at some eras, maybe they did, and some they didn't, and that kind of thing. But, it's just one of those situations where, kind of like you said, Edison, that not even just like that set or Team Rocket Returns, but just kind of that era as a whole, there's probably still a lot of opportunity that exists there. Radar, we debated on a podcast one time about Hyper Rare Charizard being $3,000-$4,000 a piece in a 10. Are they overpriced, etc.? And a lot of the comparisons we made, I just said I felt were just underpriced, right? I still think Hyper Rare Charizard makes sense where it's at. But when you tell me then I can go buy a Mewtwo, Rocket's Mewtwo EX in a 10 for, like $2,500 to $3,000, $4,000 in the same price as that doesn't tell me that Hyper Rare Charizard's overvalued. It tells me that Rocket's Mewtwo is probably way undervalued. And full disclosure, I have a CGC 9.5, but that to me, just like, that's why I don't sell it.
That's one way to think about it.
Yeah, that's why I don't sell it, because it's like
one way, right?
Yeah, and
because you can think the other way where the Charizard is overvalued.
Correct.
So,
yeah,
but yeah.
I think it's important to, like, if you're in like a physical goods hobby, to like be it trading cards or like. I mean, you could tell that I was into shoes and clothing and stuff like that. Everything is all relative. Like the prices all have to be they don't have to be like directly related to each other. But I think, if you're thinking about purchasing something, it's about like comparing it to what you could relatively buy with the same amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree. Like, a 10 in EX era cards for the prices that they are, they're really expensive cards. Like, don't get me wrong, but I mean, I feel like when you think about I do like a simple math when I talk to my friends about this. Like the price that you pay for a booster pack, you're not guaranteed even a holo in these packs, let alone an EX card. Then to send it off to grading, you're going to express this, you're going to spend money there, and then you're very likely going to get an 8 or a 9 because of just the inherent flaws, the way the pack was like held for all those years. Like there's like so many.
I added quite a few EX series holos to my watch list this morning. And after this, I'm probably going to click buy it now.
So after this, he's going to edit this podcast and cut all this out. You guys are never going to see this because he wants to get them all. But yeah, like it, and maybe that's like the greater moral of bringing up this box in general, is just kind of talking about this era. Maybe, and I do think that part of the reason that some of these cards haven't hit that point of maturity is because of exposure, right? This was the low point of the game. The EX and Diamond and Pearl eras were the low points. There's probably not as much nostalgia that's derived from them, and not as many people have that emotional factor pulling them back to it. So it's about that journey of exposure and that journey of realization. As people enter the hobby, they're going to naturally gravitate towards certain areas that they've got experience with, or people that they're associating with have experience with, which is going to make it harder for those eras because there's not going to be as much of that pull towards it. But as that exposure happens and you start having, influencers or people talk about it and discussing these things, or maybe a box hits a new all-time high and is all the talk for a few days, it then starts to bring that exposure and then leads to those price jumps and price movements. I think that's kind of how Skyridge developed over the years. A lot of people now just see Skyridge as this very expensive set and everything's expensive. But for a long time, Skyridge wasn't that way. And it wasn't really until Leonhardt really started to bring Skyridge a lot of exposure on his channel that we really saw those boxes specifically take off, and the cards in that era take off.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think exposure makes a lot of sense. But I guess at the same time, too, that I'm saying the cards are, like, the individual cards are undervalued, I can't help but feel like the price on the Deoxys box is super overvalued. Because, like, you quite literally have to get to do a $90,000 valuation, you have to get a 10 in the Rayquaza, or else it's not worth it.
You almost need the singles prices to mature some to help the evaluation of that box then mature, right? And I think we've kind of seen this with First Ed Base, right? When Charizard finally took its big run in a 10 and spiked, it went from 40 to 60 to 70 within a week, and then eventually started hearing offers 100 plus, 150, etc. Now, obviously, we've seen that card grow. It's almost like that kind of gave First Ed Base that boost for the box prices to make sense at these now crazy high prices. And it feels like EX Deoxys and maybe some of the people that were selling them were trying to get that really high realized box price without having kind of the underlying growth or the foundation of it, which is the cards within the set, also growing to help justify that. And maybe that's why we didn't really see it stick. And a great example of inorganic marketing and pushing of something where the organic side doesn't really back it.
Yeah, I think it'll match probably the last 10 Rayquaza, 45, 50,000.
It was only 40,000. Oh, that's kind of cheap. I thought Rayquaza was way more than that. That's expensive.
Yeah. The last Rayquaza was that about 45 in PWCC, from what I remember.
Which, if another one of those popped up in modern standards, I'm not sure that would stay that low as well.
If that was cheaper than the first edition Lugia, I think that would be undervalued, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But do you also think that that Lugia is supposed to be the price that it is?
I think that Lugia at 70,000 makes a lot more sense. I'm not convinced on even the second sale of 89. I got a lot of flack when I mentioned that on PWCC that I even thought 89 was pretty high still for that card.
It's low pop, right? It's less than 50, right? It's a hard card to grade. I mean, I pulled one myself. Not a chance I was going to get a 10.
Okay. I don't know if you want a reference on to you mentioned that it's 40,000 for the English. That was the last set sale for the English.
Yeah, that's what
PSA
Radar
10
said. It was
Gold
40
Star.
something.
Yeah. I was just because I wanted to see what the price was for a Japanese, but a BGS 10 sold today for 40,000 for Japanese,
which means the English is higher, guaranteed, because the English has historically has outpaced the Japanese since the start. So
was that first edition?
No, it wasn't first edition. It was unlimited.
That's even bigger.
Yeah, I'm guessing is that rarer for Gold Star era? Was EX error?
So I actually think unlimited technically is rarer, but first that is generally the price leader in Japanese. But the English should outpace that regardless.
Yeah.
So
that's interesting.
Just interesting.
Do you have the pop report up by chance? If you do, what's the pop of Gold Star Rayquaza? I can't pull it up on my computer; it would minimize us. But I would love to know the population of Gold Star Rayquaza in a 10 on PSA's pop report in comparison to Lugia First Ed.
I think there's more Rayquazas. I know that.
Are there? Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by that, but Gold Stars historically have pretty low pop in 10s.
Certain ones.
Other than Entei, Raikou, Suicune, Jolteon, Flareon, Vaporeon,
they're actually all other than the dogs, I think they were all under 100. There was maybe a couple that were near the mark, but all under 100.
Because I know that there's a few that have absurdly low pop, like Torchic, is generally lower
Torchic
than...
has 15, 16. Latias has 19. Latios is 20-something. Gyarados has 35. I think Rayquaza's... Shoot. Actually, I think Rayquaza's lower now.
No, Rayquaza Gold Star is 46 and a 10.
46.
So-
and then what's Lugia? Lugia is probably like right there.
Yeah, so even in that comparison, then you've got to think that Rayquaza very well could be undervalued. Radar's probably thinking of where he knows a 10's at and wants to buy it and just leave the podcast right now. But like that's the reality, though, that like I actually think Ray Goldstar is grossly undervalued, and which eventually then means the EX Deoxys price could be justified and just hasn't like seen that realized sale that really puts it on the map.
Anybody that's made it to this point in the podcast, if you're watching this, watching that Deoxys box is going to be like the best opportunity.
Anyone that's made it this far, this is like the most valuable shit we've ever said, and like ever, and may be the most valuable stuff we've ever talked about, because
we are not financial advisors.
Correct. We are not licensed professionals. You should not. This does not establish a client person relationship. Do not trust us. This is all merely for educational and informational purposes only. Yeah, we just like EX there.
Yes. We like the art.
For reference, the population is pretty much the same. It's 42 Lugias in first edition and 46 Rayquazas. It's like, I don't think 4 is going to make a huge difference.
I think that just tells you that either Lugia's way overvalued or Ray's way undervalued, or maybe a mix of both, and that they could probably just find a happy medium somewhere right around that 60-65K mark.
Or base set Weedle.
Or base set Weedle. That's the champ, dude. Undervalued, in my opinion. But yeah, seriously, though, we are not financial professionals. Do your own due diligence. This is just all our opinion based on what we see. Wow, just casual Crystal Charizard right there. If you would have pulled up a Rayquaza, I would have lost my mind.
He has 10 of them in his stack.
I know.
He wants us to
He's
talk
so
it up.
happy.
I've never owned one. I do not own a Rayquaza.
You've never owned a Ray. I've never graded a
The-
10. I've gotten 3 9s before, but I've never gotten a 10.
Hey, show it off, dude.
Okay,
I've
I
owned
also
4
sold them all
gold
back
stars
when
in
that
my
card was
life.
like $1,000, so it feels bad, man.
I currently own the Latios in a 9, the Mew in a 9, and then I've owned the Umbreon and Espeon play
In
promo.
English? The first two.
The first 2 English, yeah.
Okay.
Gold stars
Those
are
the
tough to
only
get
gold
10s,
stars.
man. I've only ever managed to get them on the Dogs, a Mewtwo, a Kyogre, and I think a Celebi, and that was it.
Mm.
And
The
like
ones I sent in the CGC are like 3s, dude.
yeah, that's all I said. Now I can't afford that expensive stuff anymore. No way, Jose.
God.
I have a 2.5 Trico out there. CGC 2.5, baby.
You wear it proudly, though.
Oh, I do. I'm very proud of that. He's battle worn. I wanted him to designate battle worn Gold Star Trico on, but they wouldn't do it. So
That's when I talk about like 2s and 3s. I'll tell people like, oh, they have character to them.
yeah, they have
developed
character.
age.
Exactly.
Yeah, they've seen it play.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess when I said like I don't care that much about the PWCC. Like I don't care about majority of the products, but like I would say there's like 10 things that are actually worth seeing the price for, which I think most people would agree with. That
Yeah, I
I
agree.
mean, 3 pages of Charizards, hollow Charizards. I don't really care what those
There's
go for.
20
It's like 2
first ed
pages.
Charizards on PWCC. I just
mean,
need to
if
know
you're
what the
able to
9 or the
really-
9.5 is going to go for, because that will dictate the movement of the market for all the others, right? Like that kind of thing.
If you sit down and analyze all those prices at each half grade, everything, yeah, you can help yourself maybe make a couple $1,000s or save a couple $1,000s buying something, regrading something, whatever. But is it really worth it? No, it is for Sean because he's going to make a video recapping the entire thing.
So you know what I was thinking? Because I was thinking after I said that, like, how do you make a video like 10, 15 minutes? But the key is, because these blocks are becoming so long and nobody wants to sit through all of them, the value of that video content becomes much higher, because like now I'm saving you the 4 hours and you can get it all in 15 minutes. Look at my shameless plug. You shamelessly plug your Espeon. I need my floor here. Okay, everyone, you need to go watch my PWCC recap video, because I will give you all the info that you need to know after that recap, so you don't have to sit for 4 hours like I'm going to and watch all of the German base set cards get completed. Edison, what do you want to plug?
Zero shame in my plug, dude.
Huh?
Well, I don't even want to plug something. I just want like I think if you do want to recap like that type of style of stuff, like all those Charizards, I think the minutia of it's going to be really important. Like because there are cards that are technically graded one grade higher, but they don't look as nice than those, and you do see a difference in the price. So you can't just like say like, oh, the 8s went for X amount, 7 went for this amount. Like,
you definitely have to.
That's what I do.
Assess the picture as a whole, but then also like if you're going to hone in on one, justify it.
Yeah. I think Radar and I talked about like there's like a BGS like 7.5 in the last auction that was actually considerably cleaner, or maybe it was worse, something like that. But it felt out of place for the grade.
And I think that's like Radar says, I always plug my videos. Today, the video I made literally talked about a 9 first ed Charizard that ended yesterday. That I personally would like if I was like pre-grading it, would put it at a 7, right? So maybe you get lucky and at high rolls like a 7.5 or an 8, depending on where you send it. And somebody paid arguably market or a little above market 9 value on it. And I feel like that's like one of those cards long term that once you're trying to sell your 9 into the market, if you ever do, and there's a bunch of other 9s, you're going to like, it's going to be much harder for you to push your 9 when all these other ones at the same price are just, aesthetically better. And I think that point you make of like honing in on not just the prices of cards, but maybe why they derive that price versus others is like super, super critical and important.
Yeah. It just when you're saying like down the road, if you sell your 9 across all the other 9s that are on the market, I mean, I'm just gonna say like you can go 10 days from now and try to sell your base set unlimited Charizard on PWCC, and you have 10 other people competing with you at that grade.
Yeah,
like that's already the reality. So like your card actually, I think that's the hope. People are buying the card itself and not just like the. I mean, obviously the grade assigns some value to it, but you would hope that they're looking and saying like, oh well, that doesn't actually look like a 9 to me.
Yeah.
And it's not like these cards are. It's not like an Illustrator or a trophy where this is your only buy-in opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, I'm very confident if you want this, you could find one.
That's why I buy it. That's why I bought an altered trophy Pikachu,
because it was your only option. Like there, what is your other option, right? Where it's like that's not the case for these cards, and I think that's kind of the greater summary of PWCC as a whole. Is now for a while there, especially on first base, if we think back to like August of last year, if you wanted a card in like your price range, you had like 1 or 2 options on the market. I remember back when I had a large position in first base that I had listed up on the market, and I remember saying, I'm the only one. Like, if people want this card, they have to go through me. And so I kind of got to like dictate my own prices for a while. Whereas now, that's not the case. Like, if you want a Mewtwo and you want it between $600 and $800, you've got 30 options there. And so things like buying the card, not the grade, actually assessing out the value, looking for the deal, like that stuff matters a lot more now because those options exist. It's not like a card where, well, this probably should have gotten a 6 instead of a 7, but again, it's my only option. I may never see one again, so I just buy it. It's not like that. And so I think that's a great point that you make there, is that, more so now than ever, because of the growth and exposure of Pokemon, there's absolutely just more options for most cards than what there ever has been in some of these higher rarity things. I mean, how many Unicarps have we seen since all of this started? I mean, it's almost like every PWCC block now has a Unicarp in it.
Yeah, there's a 10 on this block. There's 4 fan club Porygons, 2 fan club Eevees. I forget what else.
For a while, there were no Gold Star Espeon Umbreons in English on the market. Now we have, 2 9 Espeons, a 9 Umbreon, a 10 Umbreon. Like, Gold Stars are everywhere, right? Like, and we're seeing like a lot of these. That's why like your pinnacle ones, like your play promo that you don't see as often are probably going to be those ones that people chase after more, because these other ones have just become more accessible as the prices hit a point where people value the money over the card.
Buy my play promo.
Yeah, I'm too poor, dude.
I'm priced out.
I can only buy full art trainers, dude. I can't afford your cool cards.
Get enough of them.
I can't even afford a headboard for my bed, and back there you've got like a whole wall headboard on your bed.
Traveling,
hotel.
Dang, you can afford to stay at hotels that have beds in them? Holy cow!
Sean sleeps in the car. On the road
Yeah, I
trips.
just sleep in the
Can't do
car
it.
when I go. Funny fact, that's actually when I used to travel for
What?
Pokemon tournaments. I used to, a lot of
Really?
times, we would like bum it out and I'll sleep in a van or sleep in a car. Like, I remember one time we went to an event where a bunch of friends and I were going to stay at the dorm, our friend's college dorm, but they were only allowed to have one person, like, as a guest. So, like, 8 of us stayed in the lobby of the dorm and just slept on, like, the couches there. Like, so yeah, I've roughed it. I know what it's like. That's what we did when we wanted to play
anymore.
competitive
Now you're
Pokemon back in the day.
big-time-
When you didn't win stipends, you just got a
big-time
playmat.
Squeaks.
No, he's up in the. He's too rich now. He's kind of lost sight of us,
Too
little
big
guys.
for me.
Who, Radar or me?
You.
Well, I haven't. What? Radar's the
You
one
got
in the
expensive.
hotel.
Look at your wall, dude. Your walls are worth like.
I sleep in this
Kind of-
chair. This is this is my bed. See, I just cranked this sucker bed.
Well, that sounds like a problem between you and your wife, not between your finances.
Holy shit. Let's see.
Dang, and this was our last podcast, episode 17. I hope you all enjoyed because we will never have another one.
It's a good place to end it off. It's like the finality of a relationship.
The finality. Yeah, it was great having you on for your first and last episode ever, Edison. How'd you like it? Did you enjoy it?
It was all right. Yeah, I guess like my closing remarks would just be like, yeah, I just end of the day, PWCC just comes and goes, and that stuff. A lot of that stuff's just gonna end up back at auction over and over again for the year.
Mhm.
And, like, I think people who, not to say like it's not important to like pay attention to that stuff, like, big market movers, but like long term, even short term, like you don't really have to waste your time going through that footage.
Mhm.
I mean, it's good for you, like people want to make content out of it too, and if people consume like a little bit of like a snapshot. But a lot of this stuff will like move no matter what.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the prices, I don't see. I've been thinking about this a lot, like what's going to slow prices down, and I really just can't pinpoint what will eventually make this market go down. And like we're talking about old cards too, but like the promo market has like exploded over the past couple of weeks, and that was already like the trajectory of everything's been doubling in price over the past 2 weeks. I took like a 2-week break from buying promos, and I come back, and I can't even afford the stuff that I was buying anymore because I got priced out.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah, the only thing I have in mind is a complete economic down crash, like a whole 1920.
the economy would have to completely fail. And we've talked
Yeah.
about this before, like what will bring the price of like first edition down. And I think first edition also has like a floor where people buy and they just end up holding it. It's almost like it's like people with diamond hands, as you said. Like you just buy it and you hold on to it. What happens to the price doesn't matter. And you bought this card, it went down a couple $100s. Why would you sell it? I mean,
that's-
maybe if you really need the money.
I mean, last year I sold, first ed Charizards. There was a time where I sold a 4, for like, it was near $8,000. And then they fell all the way down to like, people were offering like 3,500. And I was just like, well, why would I sell this at 35? Like the price memory here says that it hit $8,000 at one time. Like theoretically, if I'm betting on Pokemon growing, the 4 should eventually, work its way back up. And so I'd rather just hold it. Like, so I get that perspective a lot.
Yeah, like they'll catch you on the way up. Like they'll be back for you. Like it's
I
like very
hope,
similar to,
baby.
like, Bitcoin.
Maybe
It's
this
like-
is my
yeah,
time right now.
It's your time.
It's my time.
Yeah, I can't remember the point, but yeah, it was just for like my long-term outlook for Pokemon. So I'm just gonna keep buying what I buy and grade what I grade, and like I know it's gonna sell because this was like that gut feeling, and I can't see anything that's gonna stop that movement. Anytime soon. I think we're like in a blessed era of Pokemon. If you want to make money,
The golden age.
We're in a
of
blessed
Pokemon.
era of making money.
Yeah.
I threw a dartboard threw a dart at a stock ticker list, and I made money on it. So it's just
He's
messed up.
throwing
But
darts, dartboards, stocks, tickers. He's just throwing stuff around. He's making money. Why not?
Yeah, it's stupid. We
I
live
felt-
in a stupid time right now. I don't like it.
I felt really smart talking to like a friend about that. I was like, oh, all these cards that I bought, I made money on over the past couple of months. And I got like a reality check. He's like, well, I'd be even more surprised if you didn't make money on cards that you bought over the past couple of months. And I realized like, wow,
I mean,
nothing has gone
that's a
down.
good point though. If you're in it right now and you're like flipping and you're not making money,
Stop.
you're probably never going to make money. Like because this is the easiest it has ever been and probably easiest it will ever be. And if things do slow down, it only becomes much harder with much more competition and far less liquidity. And so, yeah, I mean, is like being as blunt as possible, like, or I'm being blunt, but I trying to like feather it as much as possible. But the reality is like, if you can't make money right now, you cannot make money in this industry because this is like the easiest it's ever been.
Wrong.
Which is why I think you've talked about this idea of people wanting to open stores right now.
Yeah.
Like this is like the absolute worst time to open a store because like, yeah, everything's booming and it seems easy, but then the moment it slows down even a little bit, you're gonna like,
yeah.
I mean, you're probably just gonna shut down.
Yeah, you're much better proving that you can make it during like an economic hard time so that you can just like cash in and ride that boom wave than like making it during the boom time and then hoping you can like weather that slowdown time because you never have a guarantee of another uptick, right? I remember in 2016, everyone was saying, this is it. This is like peak of Pokemon. We're never going to have anything like this again. And, you know, for 17 and 18 and part of 19, it kind of looked like that was the case. And then now here we have 2020, but now, you know, we're all like anticipating this slowdown that someday it'll come. And like, what could trump this? You know, like we have Post Malone collabing with Pokemon. Like, at what threshold do we have to get to like eclipse 2020, 2021 someday? You know, and
we will.
And will we? Maybe we will. I don't know. Pokemon on Mars. It could happen.
Yeah, that's the big announcement for the 25th is that Pokemon Company bought Mars.
They bought Pokemon Mars in conjunction with Elon Musk and Clubhouse.
Pokemon is now accepting Dogecoin as payment.
Yeah, all right.
We're done there. That's the show, everyone. So
yeah, thank you, Edison.
Yes, Edison, thank you for joining. And Radar, thank you as always. And all of you out there who have watched episode 17 of Collectible Conversations, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.
Have a nice one. Thanks for having me, guys.